The impossible arrival, a human warship. Appears music inside the Empire. Sector triggering galaxy-wide terror. The silence in the monitoring station broke with a sound that would haunt Sensor Operator V for the rest of his life. It was a simple alert tone. Nothing more than a gentle chime, but what it represented made his heart skip in unison, his chitness. Fingers trembled over the console as he recalibrated the sensors for the fifth time in as many seconds. The reading remained unchanged. Impossible, the word formed in his mind but could not make it past his mandibles. Fleet Commander Zethar was reviewing patrol reports when the emergency channel activated. The scarlet light that flooded his command chamber meant only one thing: a breach of the Empire's sovereign territory. He had served the Christian Empire for 40 cycles and had seen his share of incidents, smugglers, pirates, even the occasional lost merchant vessel. But the look on Vria's face when his image appeared on the view screen told him this was different. The sensor operator's usual gray complexion had turned pale blue. His multiple eyes darted nervously and his voice cracked. When he spoke, "Commander, we have detected a vessel, unscheduled, unidentified. It appeared 3 million km inside our border, far from any registered jump gate." Zethar leaned forward in his command throne. His elongated skull ridge flared slightly, sign of irritation among his species. "Show me the vessel classification." There was a pause that lasted 3 seconds too long. When V finally responded, his voice was barely a whisper. "Sir, the energy signature matches the database classification for human origin." The command chamber fell silent. Every officer present turned to look at their commander. Zethar felt a cold sensation spread through his torso, something his species only experienced in moments of genuine fear. Human. The word carried weight that few in the galaxy could understand. For 200 years, humanity had been contained in their home system, isolated by a joint agreement among all major galactic powers. They were too dangerous to interact with, too unpredictable to trust, too advanced in ways that made no logical sense. "Send me everything," Zethar commanded, his voice steadier. Then he felt the data appeared before him in holographic form. The vessel was massive, easily 3 times the size of a Christian battle cruiser. Its design was angular and aggressive, with no regard for the elegant curves that most space-faring species favored. Weapon ports lined its hull like the teeth of some ancient predator. But what truly terrified him was how it had arrived. Every species in the galaxy used jump gates, ancient technology left behind by the precursors, stable, reliable, predictable. This human ship had simply appeared as if it had torn through the fabric of space itself. "Activate fleet Protocol 17. Zethar ordered all vessels to battle stations. Establish a perimeter at 5 million km. Do not approach the human vessel under any circumstances." His officers moved with practiced efficiency, but he could see the fear in their movements. The same fear that was spreading through his own body. Humans, after 2 centuries of silence, they had returned, and they had brought a warship aboard the UNS. Relentless. Captain Sarah Chin stood on the bridge with her hands clasped behind her back. She was a tall woman with dark hair pulled into a tight bun, and her brown eyes showed no emotion as she watched the alien fleet scrambling to respond to her presence. She had expected this reaction, her mission. Briefing had been clear about what would happen when humanity finally revealed its hand. Stat report, she said. Calmly, her tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander James Morrison, glanced up. From his station, 27 Christian vessels, forming a defensive perimeter, standard battle formation. Energy signatures indicate they have powered weapons but have not achieved weapons lock. They are afraid to shoot first. They should be afraid. The bridge crew consisted of 15 officers, each selected for this mission because of their exceptional skill and unshakable nerves. They had trained for 3 years in complete secrecy, preparing for the moment when humanity would step back onto the galactic stage. The weight of that responsibility sat heavy on all of them. Communications, Chin continued. Prepare a message on all standard frequencies. Keep it simple. Yes, Captain, her communications officer responded. Channel open. Chin took a slow breath. The next words she spoke would be heard across the Empire within minutes, across the entire galaxy within hours. She chose them carefully. This is Captain Sarah Chin of the United Nations. Starship Relentless, representing the sovereign territory of Earth and its allied colonies. We have entered Christian space under Article 7 of the Galactic Accord. We come not as invaders but as representatives of humanity. We request immediate diplomatic contact with the Empire Supreme Council. You have 6 hours to respond. She nodded to her communications officer, who closed the channel. Now came the waiting, the most difficult part of any military operation was always the waiting. On 17 different Korean worlds, the message played through public communication systems. Civilians stopped in their tracks. Markets fell silent. Children asked their parents what it meant. The adults had no answers to give. They only knew the stories, the legends that had been passed down for generations about the species that had been locked away for their own good and everyone else's safety. In the capital city of Kridios, Prime Supreme Counselor Thorne received the message in his private chambers. He was old, even by Christian standards, and had lived through the events that led to humanity's isolation. He remembered the wars they had prevented, the technologies they had developed that broke natural laws. The way they looked at problems and found solutions that should not have been possible. He remembered the vote, the unanimous decision to contain them before they could upset the careful balance of galactic civilization. Now they had returned and they had brought weapons. Thorne activated his emergency summons. Within the hour, every member of the Supreme Council would gather. They would debate, they would argue, they would calculate the odds of survival if they chose violence over diplomacy. But Thorne already knew the truth that none of them wanted to acknowledge. Humans had not asked for permission to enter their space. They had simply done it. They had bypassed every security measure, every sensor network, every defensive system the Empire had spent centuries perfecting. If they had wanted to attack, the Empire would already be burning. The message was not a threat. It was a statement of fact. Humanity had returned and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. A message that changed everything. The Supreme Council chamber was a marvel of Christian architecture, a massive dome of crystallized metal that filtered the light of 3 suns into a soft amber glow. 72 seats arranged in concentric Circles, each one occupied by a representative of the empire's most powerful families. Today every seat was filled. Today they faced a crisis that could end their civilization. Supreme Counselor Thorne stood at the center of the chamber, his aged body supported by a gravity assist harness. His voice carried through the space without amplification, a testament to the acoustic engineering of his ancestors. Distinguished members of the council, we face a decision that will echo through history. The humans have returned. Counselor Vexera rose from her seat, her young features sharp with anger. She represented the military caste, and her voice carried the weight of 3 battle fleets. They have violated our territory. They have ignored protocols that have kept peace in this galaxy for 1,000 years. There is only one response to such aggression: we destroy them before they can threaten us. Further, a murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber, but Thorne held up one hand for silence. Tell me, Counselor Vexera, how do you propose we destroy a vessel that appeared inside our borders without using any known method of faster than light travel? How do we fight an enemy that can move through space in ways we cannot detect or predict? The question hung in the air. No one had an answer. Counselor Drexen, elder of the science caste, activated his personal display. I have reviewed the sensor data. The human vessel did not use jump gates. It did not create a wormhole. It did not employ any form of hyperdrive that we can identify. According to our understanding of physics, what they did should not be possible, yet here we are. Then they are using precursor technology, Vexera insisted. Technology they have no right to possess. Thorne shook his head slowly. You do not understand. 200 years ago, when we voted to isolate humanity, they had already surpassed us in several technological fields. Do you know why we truly locked them away? It was not because they were violent. It was not because they were aggressive. It was because they learned too quickly. They adapted too fast. They looked at problems that had stumped galactic civilization for millennia and solved them in decades. He paused, letting his words sink in. We isolated them because we were afraid that they would render us obsolete, afraid that they would upset the balance of power that had kept our families in control for generations. We told ourselves it was for the good of the galaxy, but it was always about control. You speak treason, Vexera hissed. I speak truth. Then voice grew stronger. And the truth is that we have 6 hours to decide whether we greet them as equals or condemn our entire civilization to war with an enemy we cannot comprehend. Aboard the Relentless, Captain Chin sat in her ready room, reviewing historical files, the official record of humanity's isolation read like a diplomatic necessity, concerns about technological disparity, worries about cultural contamination, recommendations for a cooling off period while humanity matured, all lies wrapped in bureaucratic language. The truth was simpler and uglier. Humanity had been locked away because they frightened the established powers. In just 2 centuries of spaceflight, human scientists had made breakthroughs that other species had failed to achieve in thousands of years. Human ships were faster, human weapons more efficient, human artificial intelligence more sophisticated. None of it had been stolen. None of it had been built on precursor technology. It was all human ingenuity, human determination, human refusal to accept that anything was impossible, so they had been contained, told that it was temporary, told that it was for their own good, told that they would be welcomed back into galactic society once they had proven themselves ready. 200 years of isolation, 200 years of being treated like dangerous children, 200 years of building, learning, and preparing for the day when humanity would take its rightful place in the galaxy. That day had arrived. Soft chime indicated an incoming message. Chin accepted it with a gesture, and the image of her first officer appeared. Captain, we are receiving a response from the Christian Supreme Council. They request a face-to-face meeting. Supreme Counselor Thorne himself will represent the Empire. Chin allowed herself a small smile. She had gambled that fear would drive them toward diplomacy rather than conflict. The gamble had paid off. Prepare a shuttle. I will meet with the counselor aboard a neutral station. Have Lieutenant Morrison select a security detail, but make it clear we come in peace. Understood, Captain. The meeting took place on an automated trade station halfway between the human warship and the Christian fleet. It was a small facility, barely large enough for 24 people, but it served its purpose. Neutral ground where neither side held an advantage. Captain Chin arrived first, accompanied by 3 security officers in light armor. They wore no weapons, a gesture of goodwill that made her security chief nervous, but Chin understood the importance of symbols. Humanity had to prove they were not the monsters the galaxy feared. When Supreme Counselor Thorne arrived, he came alone. No guards, no attendants, just an old alien using a mobility harness to move through the station's corridors. He and Chin stood facing each other in the observation lounge with the stars of the Empire stretching out before them. Captain Chin Thorne began, his voice tired. 200 years ago, I voted to isolate your species. I have spent much of my life believing it was the right decision, and now, Chin asked, now I am not certain. I'm old, Captain. I have seen the rise and fall of dynasties. I have watched wars consume civilizations. I have learned that fear is a poor foundation for any decision. So I ask you plainly, why have you come? Chin looked out at the stars. For 200 years, humanity lived in a cage. We were told it was for our own protection, but we knew the truth. You were afraid of us, afraid of what we might become. She turned to face him directly. We have become exactly what you feared. We have grown stronger, smarter, more capable. But we have also learned patience. We have learned that power without purpose is meaningless. She took a step closer. We did not come to conquer. We did not come to take revenge. We came to show you that the time for isolation has ended. Humanity is ready to stand as equals in galactic civilization. No more cages, no more excuses, no more fear. And if we refuse, Thorne asked quietly, then you will have war, Chin said simply, but it will be a war you cannot win. Not because we are better warriors, but because we have 200 years of innovation you have not seen. We have weapons you cannot defend against. We have ships you cannot catch. We have technologies you cannot comprehend. She paused. But that is not the future I want. That is not the future humanity wants. What future do you want? A galaxy where humans and aliens work together, where our differences make us stronger, instead of dividing us, where fear is replaced with cooperation. She extended her hand, a human gesture of greeting. We are offering you a choice, counselor. Stand with us or stand aside, but either way humanity will not be caged again. Thorn looked at her outstretched hand. For a long moment, then slowly he reached out with his own three-fingered appendage and grasped it. His touch was cold but firm. I will bring your words to the council. I cannot promise they will listen, then make them listen. Chin said, because if they choose war, they will learn that the greatest human trait is not our innovation or our determination, it is our memory. We never forget those who try to keep us down. She released his hand and turned to leave. Behind her she heard Thorn speak one final time. Captain Shin, what did you call your ship? The Relentless. She answered without turning around. Thorn made a sound that might have been laughter or might have been resignation. How perfectly human. As Chin returned to her shuttle, she knew the galaxy was watching. Within hours, the recording of their meeting would spread across 1,000 worlds. Some would see it as a threat. Others would see it as hope, but everyone would see that humanity had returned and the galaxy would never be the same. The age of isolation had ended. The age of humanity had begun.